The president also weighing in, saying, I've been far tougher on Russia than Obama, Bush, or Clinton, maybe tougher than any other president. At the same time, and as I've said often, getting along with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing. I fully expect someday we will have good relations with Russia again. That is a tweet from just a couple of hours ago. Your thoughts?
Well, Christy, the president's tweet trying to make the case that he's not a Russian asset really just undercuts his own defense. The president's tweet couldn't have been scripted better if it was written by Putin himself. Someone has to have told the president that undercutting the FBI, insulting past presidents and members of the U.S. government, and criticizing their actions to keep us safe is really advancing Russia's mission. Our own intelligence community has said that those very things are exactly what Russia is after. So in the president's response, he's really just making Russia's job easier, while at the same time really showing that he is going to continue to undercut our law enforcement community. And the question really is why? Is he trying to obstruct justice and thwart an investigation that may still be ongoing? Or is he just so manipulated by Russia that he can't see past his own ego to let the law enforcement community protect us?
Yeah, doing more, Stephen, of exactly what, and in part, got to the investigation, slamming law enforcement and saying nice things, trying to get closer and closer to Russia. Let me talk to you about what popped through my head this morning, and often when we get these new revelations, is that the House Intelligence Committee, when it was under the control of Devin Nunes, closed an investigation into potential collusion. Again, this investigation that we're talking about with Robert Mueller is not completed. We don't know if the president actually was working with or for, or there was any collusion. But that closed so quickly with saying there was no evidence potentially of anything happening. And now we continue to get the drip, drip, drip out of the FBI investigation. What's this mean for Capitol Hill now that we're seeing Democrats take control of that committee?
I think it gives added impetus to the Democratic oversight and investigative operation that's beginning to ratchet up. Adam Schiff, who is the new chairman of the Intelligence Committee since the Democrats took over the House, has raised questions in the past about the president's relationship with Russia. I mean, I think we have to take a little bit of a step back. And when this headline, this New York Times headline flashed up on your phone, it's a surreal moment that the FBI would open an investigation into the president of the United States to see if he was acting on the interests of Russia. But if you think about it, it's a question that's been at the center of the Russia investigation all along. And Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, put out a statement last night saying, as you said, that the Trump administration's policy towards Russia has been quite a tough one. All along, there's been this other policy towards Russia that has been pursued by the president. We saw it in the Helsinki summit when he appeared to cozy up to Vladimir Putin. We saw it as recently as last week when he was talking about the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, where he appeared to take the Russian view. There's been this long mystery as to why Donald Trump often takes the interests of Russia as his starting point rather than the sort of the point of view of his own intelligence agencies and U.S. foreign policy. That doesn't mean that he's acting as an agent of Russia. It could be just his worldview, but it's been a real curiosity that has been at the center of this presidency and his relationship with Russia since the start.
And a curiosity as well when you look at all of the people around him, between Manafort and Papadopoulos and Flynn and all the people that have shown that they have connections to Russia. I heard one analyst earlier this week say, what else was he going to do in terms of getting somebody on his team? He couldn't get people on his campaign team. These are the people he could get. Is he, Bob Baird, you get a sense that he is guilty by association? Or is there something more to these connections that all go back to President Trump?
Well, there's a Russian fingerprint is all over his campaign, especially Paul Manafort, who was in Kiev working with two Russian intelligence officers, staff officers. Paul Manafort takes polling data and gives it essentially to Russian intelligence. And if you're in the FBI or the CIA, it'd be a strong presumption that Trump is under some sort of control of Russia. And everything he's done since does not detract from that. And that's what you would open an investigation and keep it open. And by the way, the FBI investigation is still looking into his connections with Russian intelligence. They haven't made a conclusion yet, but they're trying to collect evidence.
Yes, Samantha, Stephen did talk about, when you get the alert that, especially the headline and the way it was written, that the president was being investigated to see if he was working on behalf of Russians against America's interests. That is a jaw-dropping moment. But considering all that's known, at least publicly, there's a line in this story that says that investigators who were aware of the evidence thought that it would be sitting on it and not investigating would be an abdication of duty. Based on what is public, are you surprised that this investigation was launched?
I'm not surprised at all. We knew, even before this New York Times reporting, that Putin, at least, considers President Trump an asset. We know that Vladimir Putin wanted President Trump to be elected. He was Putin's preferred candidate because Putin thought that he would be an asset to Russia. He would be helpful to advancing policies that were beneficial to the Russian state and not to the United States. So he has been an asset for Russia for a long time. The question becomes whether President Trump was being manipulated by Russian intelligence, whether knowingly or unwittingly, to serve Russian interests. And based upon how easy it is to get the president to respond to a tweet or a critical headline or to flattery, it seems not unlikely that Vladimir Putin, a trained KGB agent, could very easily manipulate the president of the United States. And when we see tweets from the president like we did this morning, denigrating the U.S. law enforcement community rather than talking about an attack by a hostile foreign power, it really does all seem to advance the idea that he is, again, being manipulated or used by Russian intelligence.
Okay, and Stephen, last thought here. What about Rod Rosenstein now? He is set, he says, to leave. What does that mean for this whole investigation at the end of the day?
He has been overseeing the Mueller investigation from the start, given the fact that the former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, was recused and wasn't able to oversee it. I think he's acted as a shield for this investigation. We're going to have confirmation hearings next week for a new Attorney General, and this is going to play into the intensity, I think, of those confirmation hearings, and it's going to be I think a real Washington event in the next few days, and the Russia investigation, even as we're in the middle of a government shutdown, is going to sort of take center stage yet again. It's been a shadow over Donald Trump's presidency from the start, and he cannot escape it. It keeps coming back, and I think that's going to be the case again here.
All right.
Samantha Vinograd, Stephen Collinson, Bob Baer, thank you all.